you can't take these risks when you're that big. It doesn't make sense for you. And that's with any business. It's not scalable.
Because every firm out there says that they're flexible. They say that they're client centric.
I want to be the platform that you never outgrow. It's simple out the gate to just come in, plug and play, come under our corporate RIA. If you want to start your own RIA, we'll not only allow that, we'll actually help you.
I think this is a really important podcast to have because I speak with so many wirehouse advisors, so many independent broker dealers, or they're just from like a captive W-2 firm where, like you said before, the rules are just constantly getting changed on them, and their quality of life, their service experience to clients is constantly being negatively being impacted by somebody else's decisions.
We've really got about capacity to go to about 1,000 advisors. So we're really selective on who we're bringing, and we want to make sure, our typical advisor, our bread and butter, I would tell you, would be someone that is that's a big difference, and that's a big delta. And we're just concentrating up here at the very top.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the podcast today. With the exponentially increasing scrutiny broker-dealers are under from a regulatory standpoint, some firms are attempting to build a one-size-fits-all solution for their advisors. Number one, just to lower their regulatory risk. And number two, just to build a more repeatable process in terms of monitoring their financial advisors. At the same time, there's a lot of experienced elite financial advisors that are looking to break free of this mold to improve their client experience by aligning with a boutique broker dealer or an RIA that just have a more flexible framework, tailored solution, and personalized service for their business. David Millican, the CEO of Arkadios Capital, he was nice enough to come on the podcast today just to talk about his journey as he's been with regional broker dealers, independent broker dealers, and then just in his journey to find a firm with true entrepreneurial spirit, winded up moving his practice to the RIA channel and starting Arkadios Capital. Today, they have over 200 financial advisors, over $11 billion in assets under management, and in 2024 are part of Financial Planning Magazine's Independent Broker Dealer Elite. It's a really great growth story, and I really hope you enjoy it. David, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast today.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
David, if you don't mind just talking a little bit about how you kind of got started in the industry, I think that would be a really big help.
Sure. I graduated college in 1996 and always wanted to get into the financial services space. I started at A.G. Edwards back in 96. I had I guess a pledge class, and we ended up going out to St. Louis and spending 3 months out there, and came back. And 4 years later, I'd had some growth, and at that time, I wanted to sign or signing bonus or whatever you want to call it. Forgivable loan really is a better way to state it, with a firm, and Morgan Keegan was that firm, and left after about 4 years at AJ. I just had a good run there, but it was my first job, and left to go to Morgan Keegan, was there for about a year and a half, 2 years, and then left to go independent. I had two other partners, and this space was just kind of really emerging, and Wachovia Finet, which was a name brand that we banked with, had just launched this new platform and for the independent advisor, and we thought we'd just take our clients, go over there, and we'd kind of break free of the banks and kind of be able to, service our clients and, do what we need to do for them. And through that process, I realized that necessarily was not the platform that we signed up for. It was still very, we were an employee of theirs when it was convenient to be employee of theirs. We weren't when it wasn't, convenient, and they were still growing, and it was, not the platform for us, to say the least. So we left after probably about 13, 14 months, went to LPL, was at LPL for 8, 9 years. At LPL, we had a good run. They went public, and then things kind of started to change, and they went from probably 4,000 advisors all the way up to, I think, about 11 or 12 when we left over a short period of time. So we were looking for someone that was more of a, I'll call it, friendly broker dealer. That was the term back then. And we ended up going to Triad. Now, that being said, I sat in the desks or offices of a bunch of CEOs before I made this decision, because I did not want to have to do it again. it's a pain and nobody likes moving platforms. However, it was important for our growth, and we did that and had a good run at Triad. They were a good firm. Unfortunately, they got acquired, private equity like, and they changed the rules on us. So when I was going to go do this again, I was looking for a platform that supported larger teams. We came from wirehouses, and you could be really independent if you went RIA only, but that meant giving up your broker dealer license and any of the trails and commissions and other products that you might want to put clients in down the road. And we really believed as business owners to run a hybrid model was really the best thing for a business owner. So
Mhm.
we were very supportive of that. Didn't want to go RIA only, and to attract other advisors to our platform, we knew that we needed to, some of them, needed a broker dealer license to conduct some of the business that they had done in legacy business and whatnot. So we realized that there wasn't a platform out there that catered to the higher end advisors that were flexible. The ones that were flexible were typically pretty small, and they didn't have the due diligence and the compliance. They would, we'll be flexible, but there wasn't the infrastructure to support that flexibility, and we needed
Sure.
a higher end platform that supported us. And so I realized going through this process, it did not exist, and I wanted to launch something on my own, and did that back in 2016. Got approval. 2017 was the actual first year we had opened the doors for Arkadios.
That's awesome. So, I mean, you were part of, some of the largest independent broker dealers in the industry. And, as we've talked and I've heard your story quite a few times, you said something kind of specific that they changed the rules on you. Can you talk about some of the frustrations that you had in the independent broker dealer world that you had the ability to solve for at Arkadios?
Sure. If you think about it just from a common sense standpoint, and I'll give you an analogy. If you owned, I'll make it up, 25 restaurants, and McDonald's, we'll call them McDowell's, and in Huntsville, Alabama, they know that the folks like I'll make it up, wings or barbecue, since it's kind of close to Memphis, and that would sell really well in that menu. If you own 24, 25, you might actually launch that product to sell, wings in Huntsville. If you're McDonald's and you've got, I don't know, thousands and thousands of branches and stores, you can't afford to take that risk that salmonella might end up in a chicken wing in Huntsville, because now that kills your chicken McNuggets, which is your biggest, best, most profitable item on the menu over in Russia. And so I'm just saying, you can't take these risks when you're that big. It doesn't make sense for you. And that's with any business. It's not scalable. So what ends up happening in our world is ones that do it really well with a lot of the technology and backbones, compliance and structure and whatnot, they've grown, industries consolidated, and they really they can't make exceptions to their rules, not industry rules, not SEC rules, not FINRA rules. It's their internal rules. Because if there's an investment that's great that your clients want, I'll make it up, say it's a private credit deal, and they're only raising $50 million for this private credit deal, that doesn't hit any of those platforms. I mean, I don't care what the yield is. I don't care if it'd be sold out by lunchtime. They can't take that risk because it's not really scalable.
Mhm.
And I totally get it, totally understand, but there is a market for that. Just like there's a market for the large JP Morgans of the world, there's also a market for the mid-size, I'll call it community bank, white glove service as well. And they're going after two, in many times different clients.
Yeah, I mean that makes a ton of sense. I tell financial advisors all the time, because every firm out there says that they're flexible, they say that they're client centric, but they're when we talk about compliance with my clients, I just tell them there's a huge difference between what the SEC and FINRA say you can do and how a 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 person firm interprets those rules and is comforting and is comfortable governing across all of their advisors versus, a smaller, more boutique firm. Like you said, they have the ability to read those rules, which are actually pretty flexible. And because they only have a couple hundred financial advisors, they can do things more on a case by case basis.
That is correct, but if think about it this way, which I did not know when I was an advisor, the rules, let's say the fence is out this wide, that's the rules. And what happens if you're 20,000 advisors, you're larger, you're going to tighten those rules up really tight. And what happens is FINRA and SEC come in and they're actually auditing you, the firm, to make sure everybody is going by your guidelines, which are much tighter than the real guidelines. And it's not a matter of being loose. We don't, fly close to the sun or get right up on the edge by any stretch.
Yeah.
But what we are able to do is we've got a rule with our compliance folks. And by the way, my first hire when we started this was a compliance officer, former regulator. Second hire, compliance officer. So we're very, very compliant in building at a very, very robust platform, and knowing that compliance truly is at the center of that. But what we do, unlike some of the larger, we'll call it unflexible platforms, which would be anyone that's relatively large and talking about 2,000 type advisors plus, you're really structuring that particular scenario where you're not able to, build out and support any of the, the rules and regs. And we make a rule here that we'll never tell you no without telling you why. So if you call the compliance officer and they say, can we do this? Or if I'm doing this advertisement, can we do it in this manner? We have a cardinal rule here. We never tell you no without telling you why. And if we can get that, overcome those hurdles that might seem not even be where your thought is. Your thought is like, are you doing the right thing for the client? And is this anything wrong? And people love their clients and they're very defensive about that. And I totally understand. It might be something that they don't recognize that by doing that, that's actually breaking our way to govern in our process to actually approve something. And, by doing so, then we're in violation of a rule that we've made with FINRA and SEC. So we essentially educate our teams and our advisors. And I don't think I think there's a huge lack in the industry, in particular in the larger platforms, to do so.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, can you talk about, a few instances? I know you mentioned the private credit opportunity in the beginning of our conversation, but can you talk about, why a few financial advisors have come to you? I know you've had some massive wins recently. I just saw in the trade publications you won a $850 million team, a team that could have easily went out and opened up their own RIA, but still kind of decided to come to you. Can you talk about why and some of the things they found attractive?
Sure. Well, let me start by saying,
and not that specific team, just any team.
No. But I'm going to answer something. The difference is when you're joining a platform or looking at a platform, you're joining that platform, kind of their rules and everything kind of set in place. And they all say they're flexible, but in reality, the person that's promising that probably is not going to be receiving that call once you're on the platform. His job might be recruiting. So yeah, of course he's saying that. But in reality, though, when you're looking at the overall structure, I want to be the platform that you never outgrow. So you're coming over to your 850 million or whatever your thing might be, and you're saying, should I start my own RIA? Should I? Should we be under your corporate RIA? It's simple out the gate to just come in, plug and play, come under our corporate RIA. If you want to start your own RIA, we'll not only allow that, we'll actually help you. I'll actually help you with your compliance program to get you to an efficient spot where you're not going to be in trouble with the SEC. So we want to support everybody. And end of the day, if you're going to do that, we might make a little less by you having your own RIA. But if we do the right things and put the right scalable and help invest in you growing over time, you'll be in theory just as profitable as you were before you were using our corporate RIA. So we have RIA only that will be on our platform. We have folks that utilize both sides, the compliance house, which would be the BD, and and the RIA and roll up under our particular platform. But at the end of the day, we want to help scale you and grow your business and essentially give you the flexibility to grow and evolve, because you might only have 100 million and it doesn't make any sense, but you have a billion 10 years from now. You want to know that you can start your own RA and you're not having to, find a new partner, new platform, and have a big breakup and, a big nuisance of moving a bunch of accounts. We make it very easy and want to support that growth.
Sure. Yeah, I love that flexibility and allowing an advisor to shift as their business needs grows. That's awesome. So you started an RIA yourself. You have both channels. You have the infrastructure to support people that have their own RIA. You have people that are plugging into your corporate RIA and you're handling their compliance or billing, their technology, et cetera. I mean, when you're talking with a financial advisor, I'm sure there's some that are considering both of those options. Like, to some of the listeners out there that are thinking about that, what are some of the questions you think that they should be asking to determine, should I plug in or should I go RIA and open up my own?
Correct. So here's where the rubber meets the road. You can have all the flexibility in the world as far as, I'll make it up, there might be a fund that you invest in yourself and you want that on your platform, or you want your clients to have access to it. And if you have your own RA, you're going to get that ability to do that. However, if you have a BD license, then, and it's held anywhere, they have an obligation to oversee your RIA business. Mm-hmm. And that's really where the rubber meets the road. You plug into some of these larger platforms, they're not going to approve that investment. They're not, because they have to oversee your RIA business, even though you have your own RIA. And that's what people don't realize. And so you get on these platforms and you get hampered and you get constraint on what you can and can't do. So therefore, they might go RIA only. And a lot of the wires have gone RIA only just because they do what the next guy does, and they haven't lived in this world and seen other areas and avenues and other choices. So sometimes that's an easy button to just hit. But if you can still get your BD business, still have the ability to do BD business, still have the ability to attract new advisors that might have BD business or legacy, 401ks or annuity trails or whatever it might be, or be able to offer certain things to your clients that don't want to be wrapped and there's no trading going on in their accounts. They want the ability to do that. At the end of the day, you should be able, you should want that. That gives you flexibility. And in essence, that's really what the difference is. To have your own RA and set up the right compliance structure for it, the cost is, if you're going to run the right program, in my opinion, it's going to be $100,000, because you're going to need to have someone, not a compliance in a box, and then a consulting firm making sure the compliance person is actually doing the job and keeping up with the rules and everything, because all they need to know is just more than you do. So, and it doesn't just end there. You've now going to have to manage that compliance officer, whether it's HR or whatnot, and then you're also dealing with, when the SEC comes in, if you're doing something wrong or someone is doing something illegal, that is 100% on you, and your business can be totally wiped out. Whereas if you plugged on a platform, that ownership really on all those problems are on someone else, and they better have the compliance structure to make sure they know exactly what you're doing. So that's kind of where the big shift is and kind of the misnomer on what folks can and can't do. But if you're coming out of a platform, for us, it made more sense to, basically latch on to their compliance structure, take all those thoughts of audits and everything and put that on someone else. Therefore, we were able to concentrate on what we did. That was, dealing with our clients and raising assets. And to me, that was a better structure, being on a platform like that, than going out and just being RIA only and, having to worry about all, the compliance hurdles and not being able to have the ability to do any broker-dealer business now or in the future as, rates and other things change.
I think this is a really important podcast to have, because I speak with so many wirehouse advisors and so many independent broker dealers, or they're just from like a captive W-2 firm where, like you said before, the rules are just constantly getting changed on them, and their quality of life, their service experience to clients is constantly being negatively being impacted by somebody else's decisions. And they say, Corey, I want to make sure that that never happens again. I'm going to go completely to the RIA side. And I just don't think a lot of financial advisors know a solution like yours in the middle actually exists, where there is a ton of flexibility and they allow you to just, you know, be left alone to do what you feel is right for your clients, as long as it's reasonable and makes sense from a compliance standpoint. And typically, when they find out about something, an opportunity like yours, it's a no-brainer.
So I agree with that. And from our model, we've got the ability, probably, I would tell you, 1,000 advisors. That's probably about where our compression is and where we could go to. The thing is, it takes me just as much time in our infrastructure to learn about your business. If you do $100,000 in business and manage, I'll make it up, 50 million in assets, or if you do 10 million in business and manage 2 billion in assets.
Hey, breaking in real quick. I really hope you're enjoying this episode and finding my YouTube channel of value. If you're a high-performing financial advisor that can use somebody as a guide or a resource to explore all your transition options out there in the marketplace, I'm a non-biased, independent transition consultant that can help make this process so much easier for you. And another plus, it costs absolutely nothing to work with me. If you want to have a conversation, please feel free to text, call, email, DM me. My contact information is all over this episode, and I'll let you get back to it.
And from our perspective, we're having to do the same process procedure. So we're really only going after larger teams. A lot of them have wirehouse background and deal with, a lot of larger assets. And that's kind of where we are, because we know in order to keep this service model and to make sure that we're doing all the due diligence, all the compliance infrastructure that we need and you need, that you can't be 10,000 advisors. You can't be even 5,000 advisors. We've really got about capacity to go to about 1,000 advisors. So we're really selective on who we're bringing, and we want to make sure they're larger teams, because that's the only really way that economically it's feasible really to kind of roll that platform out.
Can you talk about like can you talk about the common conversation trends you're having with recruits that you're winning, and what your, typical advisor looks like that joins your platform?
Yeah, our typical advisor, our bread and butter, I would tell you, would be someone that is at a larger firm, was, I'll make it up, LPLs of the world, just because they're the largest, but a large firm like that, and they're a big team. And there's no way that big teams they're in the same system as these smaller teams. And the same guy that's doing trades and managing money in his basement is also the same platform that someone that was trying to be very sophisticated, deal with almost like family office type practice, and y'all are on the same platform. That's a big difference, and that's a big delta. And we're just concentrating up here at the very top, and we understand there's plenty of platforms for the folks that want to do stuff in their basement or executive suite and all that, and there's plenty of platforms for that. Where you kind of bump into it is the guys that are up here in the family office spot, and there might be some, I'll make it up, some private fund or whatever that they invest their own money in, and they want their clients to have access to it. They're on LPL's platform, again, not calling out LPL, a platform like LPL. And the simple answer is no, because they don't have time to research all 20,000 advisors and the different investments. Whereas we're going to be more select. We'll actually say, send it our way. We'll send our due diligence team. We'll tell you if we like it, that's, we'll allow it. If we don't like it, you should know the reasons why. And we'll tell them. And again, we won't tell them yes, and many times it's a no, but we'll always tell them why we're not allowing it, so they understand as they look for different investments for their clients and for themselves as well.
Awesome. So I guess one quick question I have for you, a lot of advisors that come to you, I'm sure they at least explore launching their own RIA.
Mhm.
You being a larger RIA, are you having conversations with a lot of already existing RIAs that are, maybe just feel like they're too far out on their own and are looking to plug
Yeah.
into some
So
processes as well?
yeah, I'll tell you our sweet spot. We have RIAs that are RIA only that are on our platform, and we're really a platform. So when we're RIA, and when I was an advisor, we gone from 100 million in assets to over 2 billion, and then we ended up having an exit with that. So I can educate from my own experience from all these advisors that are breaking out of wires exactly how you do that, and from T to green. So that's one of the things that are attracting the wirehouse folks and other folks. But when you're asking these questions, if someone's already got the infrastructure for the RIA and they're RIA only, and they've already dropped all their BD licenses and everything else, and they've kind of got their compliance program in place and whatnot, they're less likely to come back to a platform like ours. Not
Hmm.
that we can't bring added advantages to them just by being in our network. And it's not even on the costs, because the costs end up being relatively about the same. It's just they've already got their structure in place. They're used to doing it that way. It's just kind of they're left alone and they're doing it by themselves, and that's in perpetuity. That ends up being the case on those folks that are going out and setting up their own RIA. Typically, those are coming out from a captive wire environment. That's and they don't want to be told and what they can and can't buy their clients. And they don't know, truthfully, a platform like ours exists. I mean, in many cases, they're talking directly to Schwab or directly to Fidelity, and those folks are just wanting the assets on the custody on the platform. So they're just like, hey, call this, get your RA set up, and let's go. And they don't really take into effect all the negative things about that are not covered on being on a platform like ours, and just the network and the potential to merge, acquire, and all these other things that exist that they wouldn't see if they weren't on a platform like ours.
Sure. Yeah. It was interesting. I was talking with a regional director of one of the larger custodians um last year, and I just asked them like where most of their business comes, and they told me over 60% of their business comes from someone joining an existing RIA. It's not
Mhm.
necessarily them going out and starting their own thing, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but
Mhm.
it seems like it very much is the trend to plug into something
It's
already
already
existing.
existed. Yeah, totally agree with you, and 100%, because you're also dealing with some other variables there, Corey. Let's say you're in a market like, I'm just going to throw Richmond, Virginia, and you're going to join an RIA that's in Richmond, Virginia. You're walking in that office, you're plug and play, and you're good to go. And that's a lot easier walking outside a Merrill Lynch office to go plug and play on something like that than it would be, hey, I'm going to go find a lease, and then I'm going to buy furniture, and then what kind of phone system do I need, and then what computers, and it's all these things that come at you that make it so difficult and overwhelming that you just choose the easy button. And I think in most cases that's what it is. I do think it's interesting. RI has gotten even more and more popular. We've only seen markets trend up. Okay. Now I'm going to give you an example of why I believe in the hybrid model. If the markets are going up, and that's great. Fixed costs are fixed costs. Everything's going up. Assets are rising. We build assets. That's wonderful. Well, what if the market's correct and we go down 20, 30%? Would you rather be able to, when you're choosing to buy, I'll make it up, this private credit fund we mentioned earlier, if I'm going to charge 1% a year to advise on that private credit fund over 10 years, I'm making a pretty decent lick.
Mhm.
If I choose to buy it in a commission account, I might get paid 5% one time. But I might choose as the advisor to do the 5% one time in a market where I've lost 20% of my revenue. But by the way, you're a business owner. Your fixed costs are your fixed costs. Your income has not gone down 20% like it would in a W-2 model. Your income's actually gone down 60, 70%. And and just from a business owner standpoint, to be able to have those choices to say, you know what, actually in this case, I'll go ahead and do it, get paid the 5%, and I'm not going to be advising on it for 10 years. And over that 10-year period, the client's better off too. So there's a lot better, just choices that empowers the advisor to not just be a financial advisor for the client, but also be a business owner and manage and run their P&L. And it just gives you a little bit of that flexibility in the marketplace. And I think we've seen wonderful markets, which, again, high tides float all boats, and everybody appreciates that. But that's not going to be forever. Yeah. And if your burn rate's X and you're not, replacing those assets and they're going down every single day, that's a tough place to be. And we haven't seen that. And I think you'll see some of these smaller RIAs and whatnot have some struggles with that.
Yeah, I agree. And, just also from a hybrid standpoint, having both a broker dealer and a RIA for financial advisors out there that want to acquire practices. I mean, if you just have an RIA and no broker dealer, I think you're really selling yourself short and limiting your opportunity pool. If you're trying to buy a financial advisor's practice from a wirehouse or an independent broker dealer, I saw a study the other day that 60% of the assets in the independent broker dealer space as a whole are fee-based, and still 40% are brokerage. It's trending in the fee-based direction, but I mean, a financial advisor is not going to sell one portion of their business to one financial advisor and then their brokerage to another. Just at least having that access to the broker dealer has you the ability to buy both, buy at a discount, and potentially, sell at a premium by converting that to recurring revenue down the road.
100%. Again, in my prior career as an advisor, we did 22 acquisitions. Part of our model was growing and buying a lot of these. Had we not had a hybrid platform, I would not have been able to do that. Yeah. I mean, you're not going to sell me your practice if you did $1 million in production and let's say 150 of it's on some trails that you've gotten, either 401k or some annuity trails that you've, and you want to get paid on that 150. If I'm RIA only and said, no, I can only pay you on this amount because I can't get paid on the other amount. Yeah. Even though it's already been bought, the client don't want to pay an additional fee to advise on something that they already own and someone's already got paid on. And it's a lose-lose for the client. It's a lose for you, it's a lose for the acquirer. So, in order to have that model, if you even are thinking about growing through acquisition, you really need a hybrid model to best support that, period.
For sure. I've seen a lot of financial advisors that are growing the way that you are, take on a private equity partner. I don't think you have one at this point, do you?
No, not at all.
I guess I'm just curious. Yeah, I guess I'm curious your rationale around that when a lot of other RIAs are taking one on, and what are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, again, former life as an advisor, we had a successful exit and sold to a private equity firm. And I've seen the good, bad, and ugly on doing that as well. I think when they took that over and all the employees, I think we have one employee still left at the firm that acquired us. So, yeah. That's an ugly market. And I don't want to say you're making a deal with the devil because that paints everybody in the same color. But that being said, there's a reason why they're giving you that money. And there's a reason why you're doing that. And from the advisor standpoint, they want to get paid, take some chips off the table. And I totally agree. That makes all the sense of the world. In fact, we do that on our own platform. We'll do a minority stake if somebody wants to take some chips off the table and make it seamless. The difference is I stay out of their hair. I don't want to know who they're hiring, if they're hiring their wife or, brother-in-law or whoever it is. Don't care. I want to stay out of your HR. I'll be your silent partner and let you take some chips off the table. We actually do that here, but from our actual platform and practice, I haven't taken any private equity money on. I will not take any private equity money on. If I am looking at bringing on at some point a minority stakeholder or partner, it really would be in the long lines of permanent capital, because whoever I'm making a deal with, if I'm looking at a private equity partner, end of the day, 10, 15 years from now, I'll still be here. That person might have moved on. And all the promises and what along the way and the strategy, and I'm basically subject to the rules changing again. And once you've had that done a few times, you realize that is just not the course of action I certainly want to go. And I think that's really our competitive advantage as well, is the fact that we are privately owned and we can make decisions that make the best sense for our team, our advisors, and our company long term, not just what looks really good short term to roll up a bunch and hope to sell for even a higher multiple. So we're able to, look at more of a longer term view.
Well, I love it. I mean, I've had nothing but a great experience introducing advisors to you, and I wish more advisors just knew an opportunity like this existed. I think people have just gotten burned so bad in the past from the captive broker dealer world that they're like, you know what? I think the polar opposite is going to do me well, but opening up your own RIA, it could be a really great thing, but you're the compliance person, you're the billing, you're the technology specialist, you're the portfolio manager, you're everything on top of growing your business. And, the fact that someone can plug into your RIA, be their own RIA and still tap into to your tools and capabilities, it's a really unique model that I think more advisors need to know about.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I would tell you, I don't know when I was an advisor if we would have started our own RIA, as long as I knew that we could start our own RIA and the platform would have supported us and actually helped us do that. I would have always let them take the ownership on the compliance arena and whatnot. And so I everything I've done here and built here has really been through the lens of the advisor, because I've spent more time on that side of the table than I have on this side of the table.
Mhm.
So to me, that is important, to really just build a platform that you never outgrow, knowing that your business should evolve and should change. We want to support that along the way, even if our economic situation changes and impacts us negatively. If we do the right thing for you, I think we'll get benefited down the road. So.
That's awesome. I just think one more thing to add. When I speak with a lot of financial advisors about plugging into an organization like yours versus opening up their own RIA, they're so used to moving from a Merrill Lynch to a Morgan Stanley, or, a big independent broker dealer to another one. And there's this, huge repapering process. I try to tell advisors, listen, give plugging into an already existing, RIA and broker dealer a try. And if you're at Schwab or Fidelity and down the road in 8 years, you want to, move to your own RIA, I mean, that's a pretty seamless transition.
It's very seamless.
Yeah.
It's a heavy lift to go start your own RIA. It's a heavier lift to go start your own RIA than it would be to come to a platform like ours. However, if you were started as under our corporate RIA and you wanted to start your own RIA, that is seamless. That is not a whole ACAD and all the other things. You obviously need to notify the client, and there's negative consent that you're going to have to send out and notify and give them the opportunity to say they don't want to go. But I'm telling you right now, just with the fact that we've done so many acquisitions in my former career and we've seen it happen a million different ways, that we've got down really tight, very compliant, and seems to be seamless from the advisor standpoint. So knowing they can do that a lot of times is something that they want to come to our platform and ultimately evolve to, instead of having to do everything at once, which sometimes can be a little overwhelming.
Yeah, dip your toes in, get experience, figure out what you really want to do, and either stay or seamlessly transition over. It's pretty easy. But David, I really appreciate the time today. This was awesome. Is there anything else that you want to add?
None that I can think of. I appreciate your support. We've obviously grown quite a bit over the last 6, 7 years, and I think it's a really dynamic, growing platform. I think my only frustration, I feel like we're the best platform no one's heard about. So I appreciate the opportunity you taken with us today to certainly at least tell others about it.
Absolutely. I really appreciate the time, and I look forward to staying in touch.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Corey.